I think I spent all of my 20s more like stereotypical founder of like, oh, I gotta hustle and grind and go, and do. And through that work, then once I got into my 30s, I was like, oh, that was so wrong.
I said no to a lot of interesting opportunities that I would have jumped on. Like after I shut down Sleuth, and then I had these couple of interesting opportunities that anyone from the outside would be like, how could you say no to that?
Right.
And saying no to that actually let me do more of what I wanted.
I don't think it's good for anybody to be building if they're not in it for the right reasons.
This is really, truly the greatest time to build.
Yeah.
But actually what you really need to be doing is experimenting and owning the experiment. Like your narrative should be around the fact that I'm experimenting to try to find demand, which I wish
someone told me.
I kind of wish that. I'm Sehreen Noor Ali.
And I'm Lindsey Lerner.
And welcome to Visionaries in Progress. I'm Sehreen Noor Ali. I'm the founder of Te Cura Labs, where I launch ambitious leaders into their next chapter. I build a bunch of startups and I launch those. And so now I'm launching people.
Hey everyone, I'm Lindsey Lerner, and I am the founder of a project called Field Notes from the Work and the Wild, where I combine and braid together photography, anthropology, and field notes into discovering why people do what they do and how they do it. And we publish every week on Substack. So, Sehreen.
Yes.
You've launched one or two or a dozen things. Based on where you're at now, I would just love to hear a little bit of context and then take me back here to a moment where you realized something in your business wasn't working. What was happening and how did that ultimately feel?
It was awesome. My last business was a venture-backed pediatric AI company that I sunset. And one of the moments we realized that, oh man, that $1 billion valuation, like, that seems really far off, is when we launched our product and our paid subscriptions were less than we anticipated. So we started in a market where, you know, people were actually pretty used to consumers like paid subscriptions.
Sure.
And the thing that we did not know is that parents don't like to pay for health information. And it's this deep insight that feels like, oh, great, we learned it the hard way. Awesome. What about you, Lindsey?
We love that. The most recent one that I shut down was an app, a mobile app. It was called Vanter. And the goal was to make going places easy and safe for diverse travelers, which this idea came to me because I spent a decade plus on the road as a tour manager for musicians, and usually in very eclectic and diverse groups of folks. And like, no matter what, we would always get flack, no matter where across the United States we were. And so this app aimed to start to chip away at that problem. And then my personal life, same thing. My wife and daughter are Black Puerto Ricans, and so we can't go anywhere, including the grocery store, without getting our chops busted. And so the app in itself was biased, but I think it was a good idea. And we had fundraised for it, got it out into the wild in really great timing. This was February of 2020.
Oh, no.
So you can see where this is going. And so we had it out. We launched like zip code by zip code in Brooklyn, had like a couple thousand users. We're like starting to do the thing. And then my co-founder had a full-time, quote unquote, real job, which was for, I think she was at one of the big news outlets like CNN. And so a little bit more stable job at that point in the pandemic, right around. So no hard feelings, but we parted ways at that point.
It's almost like we all need therapy from our startups. So on that line, what were the hardest decisions you had to make during the pivot?
I think just calling it quits and knowing like we were so early and we had so much validation, and I knew that it was solving like such a big problem, not only for myself, but for a lot of the folks that we had, all the research that we had done, all the you know, customers that we did have. And so that felt like a letdown.
I feel that. That's hard. I feel like one of the hardest decisions we had to make was calling it too. Because there was enough to keep going. And there was enough to make the case.
Exactly.
And when you're in that, like when you don't have a clear either way, it's a heartbreaking decision.
Totally.
But I am actually really proud of ourselves that we made that decision. And I'm also proud of us that we didn't try to get an acquisition just for the sake of saying we had an acquisition. Because at that point.
For the branding.
Yes. And I'm really proud of that.
I'm proud of that too. And was anything different about shutting down that business versus the other ones that you may have shut down? And throughout all of this, how did you then navigate the unknown Like, was it the unknown of what would happen next? Was it the unknown? Like, what? Walk me through that.
One of the things I kept telling myself was like, I've done something harder. So you know this. But my daughter had a pretty tough diagnosis. So in my mind, anything that wasn't that, I could handle better because I had already known something worse. So that was actually really helpful. Like rooting myself in something that was like, oh, as long as this other part of my life is stable,
Right.
I can do this. And it was hard though, because the unknown does not work for alphas. I'm an alpha in recovery. Right? I like certainty. I like know what I'm doing. But that has also been a pretty fun lesson.
Before starting a VC-backed venture, what sort of illusion of stability did you have?
Okay, one, which I didn't know when I started a venture-backed company, is that it is really uncertain in those first, in that first year of building a new business. Now that I have another business and I can see, like, you're testing a lot in the market.
Sure.
But one of the things that happens, as you know, is like when you have a venture-backed business, you have to always project this confidence. But actually what you really need to be doing is experimenting and owning the experiment. Like your narrative should be around the fact that I'm experimenting to try to find demand, which I wish...
Someone told you?
I kind of wish that. Well, it's a good thing we're talking about it, right?
But I think that's the problem with most like VC-backed startups now. It's like everyone is just out here being like, yes, I have done this. And it's like, well, the reality is like everything is not okay and everything is on fire. Right. And if we were just a little bit more honest about that, that's why I started my current project, because I was like, we need to cut the BS. This is ridiculous. I'm like, I don't care about your Forbes cover, especially now. I'm like, everyone who's had 30 under 30s in jail. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, tell me what that actually feels like. Tell me what it's like when you're in it and actually celebrate the messiness of it, not like just the outcome.
How did you navigate the unknown?
I feel like before I was very much caught up in that, what you just mentioned, the like fake it till you make it mentality. It was like, everything's fine. It's like that dog meme where the room is on fire and the dog is just like, so I'm fine. And I like, if you tell, it's the repetition. So if you tell yourself enough, like, I'm fine, you start to believe it. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, this is not fine. Whether it was the previous app that I mentioned or back in the day I owned a music studio, it was the same thing. It was like, no, everything's fine. And it's like, deep. Yeah. Deep
if you're willing to listen.
Right. That Totally. And then now it's very much like, okay, this idea of like, how do we hold on tightly, let go lightly, and just be like, okay, I don't know. And being actually okay with admitting that you don't know, which to your point, when you have investors, that's why I was joking about the illusion of stability. It's not.
We both live in the most alpha city in the world, I feel like.
That's the second part of it. But if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Looking back now, how has pivoting changed your business and maybe even you?
At the end of the day, it's corny, but it like change is the only constant. And being able to sit in that and or ride the wave of whatever the pivot is, whatever the change is, it's like the more that you can let go, in my experience, the better things are.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's what's changed me, is rather than... I think I spent all of my 20s as like a very more like stereotypical founder of like, I gotta hustle and grind and go and do. And through that work, then once I got into my 30s, I was like, oh, that was so wrong for me. Maybe it works for other people, but like for me was not the move. And the more that
Wait, how did you know that?
Because everything actually started to work. Like, I spent all of my 20s building as much as I was talking to somebody about this the other day, like as much as I was on a unconventional or non-traditional path, it still felt like an act in a lot of ways. Because it was like, like I'm not in some corporate job. I'm not an accountant. I'm not sitting in some corner office, but I'm still building things based off of, to your point earlier, that like fake it till you make it bravado, rather than like actually building something that I'm excited about and want to really bring to fruition. And I feel like all of these different false starts, in a way, I learned along the way. I made, some of them made a bunch of money, some of them made no money. But either way, it was like these false starts, it feels like, eventually led to here, where now I'm like, oh, if I let go of this and instead of forcing it and thinking that I'm the one in control, everything actually has worked out better. Yeah.
It's almost like the more you got aligned,
Something like that.
Something like that. It's like it's revolutionary.
What about you?
Oh,
How is this like? How is navigating the change been for you?
I was telling someone, I was like, I used to think that building the venture-backed company changed me the most, but actually I think it was letting go of it. That changed me the most.
Okay.
And kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, I think it forced me to really just know what I want in a way that I did not. Like, I said no to a lot of interesting opportunities that I would have jumped on. Like, after I shut down Sleuth, and then I had these couple of interesting opportunities that anyone from the outside would be like, how could you say no to that?
Right.
And saying no to that actually let me do more of what I wanted. And so getting in the reps of knowing what to say no to and saying yes to, now I'm at a place where actually I'm like, what I am doing right now is exactly what I want to be doing.
Right.
And I look back and I have no regrets about building Sleuth. But I think about how burnt out I was, and I literally, I don't know, man.
Right.
I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
And so I think I had to go through that also to now live this chapter. Like, at some point I was telling someone, I was like, I'm living the life that I thought I would have to wait until I was, like, in my 60s. I kind of take that back a little bit because I work all the time still. Like, right? Because you have a venture back, like, startup, but then when you have your own company, you're just working nonstop.
Sure.
But at least it's all on our terms.
Yeah, how do you navigate that in terms of being on your own terms? That's what I find difficult with client work, for lack of better terms, is like, yes, it's your terms, but also it's not your terms.
I think for me, what I found is like I have a scope where it doesn't go beyond that. Like, the difference between before and now is I thought I had to over-deliver.
Weird.
Weird how we think that. That seems to resonate, Lindsay. And now I'm like, oh, actually, they're hiring us because of our expertise as well as deliver it. Like, we, like women have that a lot, where it's like, you got to over-deliver. And it's like, actually, no, we have this accumulated vertical of expertise. And it's like amazing how much this is like, you're laughing about this.
That's part of, I think, the transition of what pivoting has taught me is like, oh, like my bar for myself is at like 200%. And so if I show up in any space and I'm expected, like what I've found is that in most situations, whether it's a room, a client, a project, really anything, when I show up in the space, their expectation is probably half of what I'm expecting to bring.
And I think that's exactly true.
And then I'm like showing up and I'm like, oh, but what if we did this? And what if we did that? And what if we did this? And it's like, that's actually not why you're here.
Right. They're like, slow your roll. And you're like, I'm allowed to slow my roll?
Like, I just have to do this one thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
I don't know. And I don't know if that's just like from like tour managing for so long, where like tour managing is like the epitome of a generalist. Like, you are going to wear every single hat. Like, you're going to be the accountant.
I love that.
You're going to be the mechanic. You're going to be putting in, the gas and the oil changes. And then you're also going to make sure everyone is on the bus on time. You're like playing mom. Like, it's all of these different things.
Wow.
And I think like that transition for me happened in like 2013. I was like, had just come out of art school and was really interested in just making any and all the things. It was just like having a blast. And then at some point along the way, when I was working with different musicians, because I was the most organized, that was what the switch totally flipped. It was just like, oh, well, that's cool. Like, you're creative and can make stuff, but like none of us can be organized. So like you're gonna do that. This is all in hindsight.
Yeah.
I was like, at the time, it was just like, I just wanted to be, I was happy to be there. And so it was like, oh, my organization can keep getting my foot in the door and keep getting my foot in the door and keep getting my foot in the door. And then the pendulum swung so far that all the creativity left. And now I'm slowly like getting back to the point where I'm like, oh, no, I like making things.
I love that.
And I can be organized.
That sounds like a sound move, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fact, I mean, I was talking to some people much younger than me in their career, and I think that advice that we get that advice, we give that advice, which is like, go where you can fill in the gap, right? And so it kind of like, I get why you did that.
Sure.
And I love that you're coming back to it. I think it's this idea of like, find a way to get in the door, but and know that your value is there.
Right.
Like,
and I didn't know that part.
Yeah, maybe.
So it was like when you just said like fill in the gaps, like I just pictured cool, but what happens when you're like water and then you fill in all the gaps?
Yeah, that's fair.
And then,
Right.
and you're just tired. And you don't actually have to do that.
Motherhood, Lindsay? So listen, Lindsay, why are you not talking about your tour manager stuff? That's like really interesting stuff.
Because I don't want to be the organized one anymore.
No, but just anecdotally, the stories are awesome. I want to peek into your life as a tour manager.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So the other day I did a field note with, I don't know if you follow him on LinkedIn. His name's Devo Harris. He started a company called Adventure, which is like an AI, now it's like an AI-enabled video platform. And so you can interact in real time with whatever's on the screen. And you're like, it's essentially, it's like choose your own adventure. And it's like movies, film, TV, games, like it's really far out stuff. And he also happens to be Kanye West's cousin and John Legend's college roommate. And so he also has won Grammys in his music realm. And so him and I were talking about like when everyone gets excited by the like sexiness and the allure of the music industry because it's cool and it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll and tour buses. And it's like
brand, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then his transition from that, especially, he was like world touring, Grammy winning producer with like some of the biggest names in hip hop, Common, Nas, like you name it, he's been in the room. And then when he also went to Columbia, he also went to Wharton. Like,
interesting.
He has this very like prestigious background. But when he transitioned into being a tech founder and was fundraising, everyone looked at him and was like, he's just the music guy. He's also a black man. So they were like, you do not have a Patagonia vest. You don't belong here.
So he struggled to fundraise?
Yeah. They're crushing.
Why? Because they thought he was a musician with no business chops?
Despite the MBA and everything else. And it was cracking me up because he was like, yeah, I would sit in these classes with these, old white man professors talking about marketing. And then he would go, to his apartment and be working on like actual like culture shifting marketing for like Kanye West albums. And it was like, how do we hold these two things to be true at the same time? And so I bring that up because a lot of what he was saying really resonated with me because I do not want to be the organized one anymore. I'm like, I would just like to make things all day.
It's funny that you're saying this because probably not coincidentally, what I am now in the business of is helping people use narratives for their own outcomes. Like, how do you own your story in a way that other people fall into line the way you want to direct it? Because as you know, when my daughter was sick and I was fundraising and I was doing all the stuff in the hospital, I had to really figure out how do I talk about her without talking about her.
Sure.
Like, frankly, Sleuth was already in business. It was a critical moment. And then literally overnight, I found out her life had changed. And we were in the hospital for 3 months. And I was struggling to hold the business together from my end and also do caregiving, right? And I think what ended up happening was that I was so insecure about what the world would think of me as a founder when I was sitting there in a hospital bed with my daughter.
Totally.
And so what I can only see retroactively is that I owned the story, right? And so, yes, obviously it was a pediatric company, so it was I started it based on my kid, so like it was very in line.
Sure.
But the idea was I never wanted anyone to fault me for not doing enough. And so I would sit in the hospital room and I would write articles for Business Insider, I would post on LinkedIn, and it ended up serving the business, right? So the people that saw me, like a couple of them ended up becoming investors. And so I think I've become really, particularly for anyone that's minoritized or anyone where people say like, oh, you're just this or this. I think I've become really passionate about saying, it's like, no, you get to own it now, right? Like we live in a world, right? Because the systems don't let us own it. And, like that friend of yours, the thought that went through my mind was like, that is literally the investor's loss. If an investor cannot see this man's genius, and you let those 100%. People go. Like, and he obviously attracted the people that were right for his business. And they deserved, right? Yeah. It ends up being slightly meritocratic when you own your own story and then you can tell everyone else to buzz off. But the reason I'm saying is you is because like you're so interesting and LinkedIn is so boring, right?
You're not wrong.
How can someone tell when it's the right time to pivot or even when it might be time to quit and start something new?
I can say from my experience, it was when you stop sleeping and you stop eating, and you stop taking care of yourself in the way that you actually need to take care of yourself. Those are my big red flags. And now anytime that I'm in some sort of like, whether it's a client relationship or investor relationship or sponsor or whatever type of relationship, I've finally gotten to the point where like the moment it happens, it's like, oh, we're going to listen to that now. We're not going to drag this out
so
for the next
voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not going to drag this out for the next 6, 9, 12 months till the contract ends, till it gets renewed.
But what if you have a team?
I think you got to have those honest conversations.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I don't think it's good for anybody to be building if they're not in it for the right reasons. And like if you as a leader, you as a founder, you as a CEO, like there's always another option. You might not like the option, but like you could find a different CEO. You could step down. You could, as a founder, like there's a big difference between founder and CEO in a lot of cases. And so if you are the founder, you could hire a CEO, you know? I think it's more like being able to hold the space for the answer even when you don't want to hear it. Right. What would you tell people?
This is a tough question. I mean, I think one is look at how the business is performing fundamentally. Like, is it succeeding? Is it middling? Or is it not succeeding? That would be my first, right? Like, if it's somewhere between middling and succeeding, then see if you have the levers for more efficiency, right? If you don't, I think that's a pretty clear sign. And then everything you said. Because I think a lot of people are in the space of like, it's not actually failing. And that makes it harder.
Right.
And then what do you do? And then those things. I have a friend who's going through this right now. It's like it's really, really tough for them. You know, they had a child in the NICU. They had this like business that's doing well. And it's like, there are some circumstances which I think you say you just make the call that your family and your health is more important. Yeah. And 100%. It sounds weird to say that in a capitalist society, but...
And therein lies the problem.
Right. But I think it's so fundamentally true. And what's really great is that this is the best time to build. Like, I feel like I get so much leverage with knowing how to use AI tools in my business that what I did not get to do when I had a venture-backed company, which was like have a full life, not just a work life, even though I'm still working like crazy, I have a much richer life. And so the thing is like, this is really truly the greatest time to build, I believe.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's what are you, I hesitate to say optimize because it's so nuanced, but it's like, what are you optimizing for? Like what, and we've touched on it back and forth, but like what is actually enough? And I think that's so the issue is like when you've come up in the startup scene with the definition of enough being fundraising your pre-seed, your seed, your series A, your series B, your hundreds of millions of dollars like that are floating around, and all of a sudden you look around and you're like you said, like you don't have a life, you haven't seen your kids, you haven't seen your partner, like what is that? Versus now I'm like, I get to wake up every single day and I, other than like doing my daughter's hair, I do everything I want. That's it. It's the little things. It's like I would like to make slow coffee in the morning, and I would like to be able to take an audio call instead of a video call and have, whether it's a client or a business partner or somebody I'm collaborating with, understand that. None of this like fake corporate BS where it's like, I'm going to show up and we are going to pretend, and I'm going to pretend who I am, you're going to pretend who you are, and we're just going to keep doing that.
Right.
For the next exactly 30 minutes.
Right.
What?
That's really
and
funny.
then you're gonna like exhale at the end and be like, okay, like I'm back. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of freedom in doing this.
And if you can have, I think that's the other thing too. Like historically, lifestyle businesses were really like, can't have one of those. That's a bad word.
And now it's like, look at us.
Right. Nobody wants you to have a lifestyle business. But now I'm like, hell yeah, you can make a couple $100,000 a year. You can like I can live in New York City.
Yes.
There's food on the table.
And
Great.
There's time.
And there's
space. I got to figure out the space thing. Like the time is, but you know what I mean.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious. If you were to do it all over again, what would you do differently with the pivot?
Well, I did pivot actually. Again, in this new business, I
Another
pivoted.
one.
You know what I did differently?
Tell me.
To your point, I let go of, I followed the demand.
Mm.
And it's so funny how often we don't do that as business owners.
Sure.
Like, I kind of was like, I had one service I went to market with. I had a couple clients. I actually asked one of my clients to fire me because I was like, look, I can take you this far.
Right.
I can't take you as far as I think you need to go.
Yeah.
And I had demand on this other side. And I saw word of mouth referral going really well. And I was like, that's the best kind of demand. And then I tested the market for that.
Sure.
And I took the emotion out of it. And just staring at the demand, it was like this beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, that's what I would do. I would step back more often rather than, like, it takes a lot to extricate myself from the process. And I think because since I was a little kid, it was always taught, like, we grew up, like, pretty low income. And so it was always ingrained to me, like, you are going to work really hard. And by working really hard, then you're going to be successful. Then you're going to have money. Then you're going to have stability. And so it became that equation of work hard, be okay. Not even like wealthy or successful.
Right,
it's
secure.
just like, it's just like work really, 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 really hard. You will have security. And so it's taken years and I'm still not undone. That I think has been the hardest part. And so I think now, like, that distance is the most helpful, being like, okay, it doesn't matter if I wake up at 5 a.m. and I clickety-clack for hours and hours and I skip lunch and then I keep clickety-clacking, like, that whatever garbage, if we're honest, I'm outputting in that space is, like, coming from a place of desperation rather than the spaciousness of, like, oh, here's the impact.
I hear you so much when you're saying, like, you just have to work. But actually, I think the pivot now, maybe it's our age and stage and experience. Actually, the more space you get, the better the ROI. That's what's new about this. The space to make strategic decisions, which I think everything about business ownership right now in the narrative is like, just keep moving. But actually, if you can just stop for a second and see where you are and where your business is,
exactly,
that gets you to a better place.
Totally. Yeah, having that
then keeping on moving, right?
Yeah, the built-in reflection time, I think,
exactly.
is super important. Not that keep it moving.